with Spirit of Matter, and we are in a Saturn day and a Venus hour here with the Ascendant ruled by Saturn, the Midheaven ruled by Mars, with Mars in Saturn sign. So very Saturn, although we are talking about Pluto, which is actually in the 12th house here. So let's see what will be. And this is very much in alignment because Venus is in the 9th house, squaring Pluto, applying to square Pluto. And my previous episode dealt with this closing square with Pluto. But if you want to get more context to actually understand what's going on, or what is this thing that's occurring for this Venus-Pluto cycle, the previous, and we may look at the next as well, then we see, first of all, I want to take a look at the election here, because it's not pre-elected. I just press record. And I got a little bit of, not yet. And I was like, come on, I want to do this. And the thing is that there is a square between Venus and Pluto. It's the closing square. We are going to look at the opening square, and we're going to look at the cycle that was and at the cycle that will be. And it's very interesting that we are doing this now, where Venus is very much ruler of the hour. She's in the 9th house. We're doing a teaching related to this Venus. But Pluto is in the 12th house, although it's ruled by the ruler of the hour, which also rules the ascendant. Well, we sort of kind of had to compromise the location of Pluto to make this episode. Otherwise, Pluto would be in the 1st house if I did it a bit earlier, but I was cooking a soup. So, now, we're going to go to Astro Tools, the aspects, transits and table, and aspect search engine. We're going to look at Venus and Pluto, what we began to do last episode, and I said this needs an episode of its own. And through the years, gonna go, that will show me. So, now we are in December. We're approaching December 3rd, 2023, where Venus will exactly oppose Pluto from 28. She's going to be in 29th degree. Oh, wait, no. Going to be in 28 degree Libra. And she's going to oppose square Pluto on 28 degrees Capricorn. Now let's look at what was. Before we look at what will be, we want to understand that this is an ongoing cycle, and there is a history to how we got here. Okay? So let's look at March 16, 2023, where Venus was having its opening square to Pluto. Okay, this is the exact mirroring image of what we've been through. And the opening square was, of course, from Aries. Okay, she's closing from Libra. She was opening the square from Aries. And she was doing it on the anaretic, the 29th degree of Aries and Pluto respectively, opening another cycle. So, of course, this was not the opening of the cycle, it was already the square. And if we take a look at what was Venus doing, she was sextiling Mars at 25 degrees Gemini, but Mars was squaring Neptune. Okay, well, Pluto sextiles Neptune. Right about before Venus ingresses into Taurus. And you want to think about what happened in March 2023. Okay, we are now in December. Yes, we already are in December. So what happened this March in your life? And this was targeting your Aries Libra house. What was this thing that happened? It was related to your Capricorn house. Okay. That tension is being looked now from the other side of it. And with Aries, you must have wanted more individuality. You must have wanted more authority, more autonomy. You must have wanted to do something by yourself. You must have wanted to start something new. Okay? That this Pluto was reminding you that there is something more to what you want to do. Let's say you wanted to launch a new product or launch a new business. Okay? Or maybe you wanted to buy a house. Those people in Israel that wanted to buy a house probably are reconsidering, okay? But not just in our location. I say in Israel because right now we were starting a war, and I don't think the people in Gaza could own a house, which is another important topic to discuss, okay? People who have lands make revolutions. People who don't have lands make world wars. So that is something also that we need to understand. And now we are dealing with the same square, but with Venus in Libra, closer to Ketu. So there's something that we need to release. And we must want something to do with equality. We must want something to do with balancing one thing and the other. We must want something that has to do with, well, reconciliation is interesting because Andromeda constellation, where Venus still was in the opening square, is about reconciliation. Okay, but here we must want something to do with trade, something to do with equality around the markets, something to do with how we look, even. Unless Aries is your 10th house, you're concerned about how you look. The Aries house, Libra, is about balancing our beauty as well. Okay? You can do it from within, or you can do it by taking your vitamins and herbs and kind of like beauties from within, or you can do it by makeup or doing both, okay? Also balancing the inner and the outer. So we must understand that something is needed to be, we need to let go of something in order to get what we want in Aries. But in Aries, we had this Chiron in Aries that was co-present with the opening square. And in any case, on the transition of going from releasing something that we did on the Libra house to embark into a new beginning, there is a Chiron wound. This is what makes this cycle of eclipses quite difficult. Quite difficult, okay? Because you want to go somewhere, but you have a wound there. Yeah, I have it natally. I have the co-presence of Rahu and Ketu in Gemini, even closer orb. So you want to go somewhere, but there is a wound around this, okay? And the other thing is that there is this Pluto squaring, more or less, if it was not squaring the now is squaring this Venus, which is why I got to talk about this Venus, because she's so important. Yes, Mars is also closing, Sun is also closing, but right now where Venus is, highly important to talk about her relation to Pluto in a bigger context. Not just because she's co-present with Ketu, but because of this square, because these are, it makes this cycle of eclipses a bit more crisis-y. Okay? There's more crisis to this. So for example, if you wanted, let's say, to finally, let's say you wanted to get married, okay? You're like, oh, good, we want to get married. And now there is a war or evacuation or the markets drop. And it's kind of like, oh, well, how, remember COVID, where a lot of people were planning for marriage. And then COVID, and some of them could not get married because they couldn't get out of the house. We had Zoom marriages. Or let's say you wanted to get a new job, or say I'm going to take responsibility over my financial life, and then the more you learn about this, the more you understand that everything that you know about taking responsibility, or saying, oh, I'm going to mature, I'm going to take responsibility, I'm going to save money, then something happens and you have inflation. Or I'm going to see, okay, I'm going to invest it in stocks, I'm going to make money, so I will learn about stocks. Maybe it's Aries is your 8th house. And then you're like, oh shit, did I just fund the fiasco of Pfizer? Am I funding the genocide in Pakistan? Okay, there's more than one genocide right now in the world. Was I funding the taking of people and kidnapping children? Was that what I was invested in? Okay, and it makes it more of a crisis, because everything that you know on how to start something new in your life, and we actually do have a history of new things. Okay, there's a history of scientific revolutions, the history of entrepreneurship, of innovation. Okay, there's history to that. But everything you know about this point, while it makes necessity quite present, the innovation that usually comes with necessity is really touching on a crisis point. So on the one hand, you say, oh, I could be very innovative right now because all the conditions lead to me doing something by myself and trying something new. And then there is a Chiron wound around that new thing. This is the story of the part where Venus squares Pluto. This is the history of this. And remember, she conjuncted Pluto. Now let's look at the conjunction. Oh, let's do it like this. I'm going to look at 3 major aspects: conjunction, the square, and the opposition. And I know that there is the inconjunct and minor aspects. They're very important. We're trying to finish an episode in one go. And so we had the conjunction. The last conjunction was on January 1st, 2023. So this was the conjunction. Remember, around the previous conjunction between Venus and Pluto, it was taking part in pretty much the same degree, okay? At 2022, we began to have the war in Ukraine. So at January 1st, 2023, we had another conjunction still in Capricorn. I believe it is on the degree of the United States. Pluto returned, 27 degrees Capricorn, 28, I don't remember. It was very close anyway. And this was January 1st, 2023. So Venus started her journey, and this, because Pluto is in Capricorn, so we started this in Capricorn, and of course the United States was very much pinpointed, okay, with displacement. But you also need to understand, what does it mean for you on a personal level? Who went through a major transformation in your life at this conjunction? What were you informed of? Okay, Venus Capricorn is about relationship and hierarchy, relationship and religion. Okay, so Venus was informed here at the taboo things, the hidden religions, the hidden occult related, or the hidden power related to hierarchical structure that affects your relationships. Affects women, yes, but also affecting your relationship. For example, if I have the book about commitment that I still haven't finished reading, actually. Maybe I will finish it for the Venus conjunction. But the thing is, in the history of marriage, there was a time where women could not have like credit card or anything like that, or have their own finances, because the people saw the woman as a part of the man. So it's kind of like giving your right hand, giving your left hand the credit card. That is how it was seen. Now the remnants of this we have, where today, if you have separate accounts, separate this, separate that, and you're married in some countries, like Israel too, unfortunately, your finances are listed together. So let's say you want to have an equity in your relationship. Say, I have my wealth, you have your wealth, and we have the joint budget for the family, but we keep our independence and we maintain our connection about liking each other and building something together, rather than merging more so than we can afford. And it is not good for the sustainability of our structure. And so if the country says, well, whoever makes the most money is the householder, and all the taxation is around this, and you are one entity in the face of taxation, means debt and wealth, even though you may have a prenuptial, whatnot, hey, there's this hidden thing that you would never come to do unless you fill your papers yourself and you actually pay attention to what is written, not just what your accountants say if you have an accountant, or your lawyers say if you have a lawyer. And that is a really big deal that keeps people from actually having relationships. Okay, it's one thing if the parent is owning money for the children, for the joint children. It's completely other thing when you see the entire family as one unit, and let's say one person has debt problems. Okay, then the wife and the children will have to carry the debt problems, which keeps the family in debt. It doesn't take the family out of debt. And those things affect generations ahead. Yeah, and make it very difficult to have healthy relationships, where the more you're worried about money, the less you have a relationship. So that can be on a very personal level. How does that affect the structure in your life? And now when we wanted to make a change, which was during the square, then with Pisces it was the sextile, the end of Pisces it was the sextile. Everything blends into everything. Okay, so water is blended, it's dissolving into the earth, and the site of the generation. It's just kind of like philosophizing about the structure of the state while you're, drinking your coffee by the Dead Sea or something. It's probably what I was doing at the time. And you're thinking about this, and then in Aries you take the steps, and then that while you're actually going with the steps, it's like, why are you not married? You're almost 40. When will you have children? Well, currently my children would be taken away from me, and they would be trafficked, and I cannot be selfish in this way. Or let's say me or my spouse try to start a business or something like this and get into debt, and we would be owning each other. So if my husband would want to divorce me, he would feel entrapped, and that could risk both of our lives. And if I wouldn't want to go, then I would have nowhere to go, and I would be tied like this. So I cannot actually have a relationship practically. So what are you doing? I'm growing my fruits and veggies. How are you making money? I don't know. What is money today? What is it funding? Okay? And then you meet it from the Libra, which is again, when you're going to have a husband, when you're going to have children, or all these crises happening in your life is so that you will move somewhere. It's like, yes, but they're also happening maybe so that I will speak of the things that I am speaking, or maybe that I will raise awareness regarding those things, or things that affect the generations. Right now is the square. I cannot tell you where and how it unfolds. Okay? So this was January 2023 was where Venus began its journey. It of course went through the sextile, then the square, then the opposition. So June 5 was also interesting because Venus was opposing. Venus was opposing Pluto, and Venus was here. She's opposing Pluto in 0 degrees Leo, where Pluto is in Capricorn retrograde. So it's a different Pluto. Okay, this was the Pluto where, while we, when Pluto reached Aquarius, we were kind of like, we the people. Okay, I remember when I was looking at the $10 bill of we the people, and that meant that we the people meant something to me, so I didn't waste it. I was at the airport, so I didn't waste my $10. I kept them like as a memory or something like this. And then I saw that some people at the subway or the train were literally lynching a homeless person that was making troubles, probably because he wanted to get arrested so that he will have food. And I think it was a person with CPTSD who was performing the lynch. It was a veteran, I think, who was performing the lynch. And then this whole topic of like, hey, like instead of society holding this person with CPTSD accountable and saying, hey, this person is not that dangerous, he was just trying to do some shit to get food, and helping this person in some way, whether with food, with independent shelter from the government. Okay, we want to remove the government. What is the government for? What does it hold? How does it have a hold on us? It has a hold on us through the medicine, through the infrastructure, and through tending to the people that we don't tend to. So on the one hand, these people get lost, they get trafficked, children lost and so on. But if we want to replace the government, we really need to show for that we can do something more than what this government does. Because we need to make the government obsolete. Apartheid, people talk about apartheid, okay? Apartheid, which was also colonialism, it was made obsolete by Nelson Mandela when he made internal changes to remove the bloodline segregation that was regarding leadership, regarding marriage in his community, around the tribes. He married a person from another tribe, he stood up to the king, he made it so that people can be elected, okay? Removing the kingship. And so then it took a lot of decades. Yes, it was 20 years, and I think it was a complete Saturn cycle in jail, which is horrid. And through this cycle, he made colonialism and segregation of bloodline in the regime obsolete because he removed it from the inside. That was the power of Mandela there. And here with the Venus, Pluto, and when Pluto is in Capricorn, we really are dealing with Venus in the sign of leadership, in the sign of kings and queens, and Pluto in the sign of we the people. But when we the people are performing a lynch on a homeless person, and instead of holding the person who is doing this, who is a war veteran, and also is probably having, it's like seeing a battle when he's doing this. So instead of like showing him, hey, you're not in a battle, this is just a homeless person, they probably want food, they probably want some help, and they probably don't want to be trafficked or vilified or, going through atrocities in the government. And then we the people, we tend to that. So if we don't know how to do this, first of all, we unfortunately are going to be experiencing such things very dramatically when Pluto goes direct in Aquarius. So it's another point to remember there. We're going to see that again. And this time society will have to show that it acts differently. And if not, there is another round, because Pluto would go to the 29th degree of Capricorn and then back. We, the people, need to make our regime obsolete, not be more Nazi than the Nazis. This is what we're asked to do. And so this opposition was with Venus in the sign of kingship, kind of like, okay, where am I treated best? By the people or by the king? By the leaders or by the anti-leaders? Okay? This was also the creative tension between artists and creators and AI, whether it was by protests or not, with the presence of Mercury and Uranus here. And that was in June. So that was happening in June. And then we had the final square, which is what we are having right now. Okay, when the sextile will be from Virgo, of course. So the sextile will be from the end of Virgo, and the end of Virgo is kind of like, we want to standardize the study. So let's say Virgo is in 9th house, like, let's make a diploma in naturopathy or aromatherapy or one of these herby things, or let's or you have Pfizer is showing up to be life risking and so on and so forth, or we need a new method, or to rethink about cleaning or being more exposed to nature. And then the government for some reason supported that, and that was relatively okay. But then we came to the closing square, which is in Libra, which is what we are dealing right now. Okay? The closing square is, of course, leading to the final conjunction, the end of the cycle, since January 2023 until this is going to be 17 February 2024. Okay, and I got a bit of because I remember the last time it was in February. Yes, I think it was around this day, not particularly this date. I think it was 22nd of February, where the war in Ukraine was, which was not, so productive, but 17th February 2024 is where Venus is conjuncting Pluto, but this time she's conjuncting Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, the last conjunction we had, it was in Capricorn. The next cycle is closing into Pluto in Aquarius. And conjunction is about Venus being informed. It's not so much about Pluto transformed by Venus. Okay? Although he is informed with what Venus has been through, but it's like he's been running this. So he's informed, like, hey, what has Venus been through now? She comes back to me again. And who has she become? Okay? But Venus is yet again meeting this Pluto, and now it's a new Pluto. It's Pluto that stands, it's literally in 0 degrees Aquarius, okay? It's a Pluto that stands at the doorway of a 20 years journey, okay? And he's just at the doorway, and Venus is like, yo, what up? And it's like, I don't know what the fuck is on. I just opened the door. Oh, I was gonna tell you about that last place we've been. Yes, darling, but look at this place. Like, is this still relevant? Okay? And Pluto has all kinds of ideas. It's like you just open the door, but it is Pluto. So you open the door and you look at, the way, and I like to use how dogs greet each other, because dogs, when they enter a new playground, they just sniff on, new dog enters, everybody sniff on each other's bum holes, and they assert who's the boss, who do we follow, and that's it. And everybody knows their place. A little bit of trying to sleep with everybody, and that's it. That's it. Now everybody knows who is who in the arena. But now Pluto is just sniffing the buttholes, and he's got something to say to Venus, but there is a 20 years journey up ahead. And you want to think back to 2008. What happened? You sniffed at the doorway, okay? And you think about your personal life as well. Yeah, I was just leaving something that was very shocking for me. Somebody talked to me about relationship. All I was doing was writing career. And I had no idea of anything of this relationship. I said, okay, I had a not so good experience with this person. Now let's see, open a forum and see to do with relationships and talk to people, so I will have a different experience. And I got people slandering me and like being triggered by the things that I said. And it's kind of like you went through, it's like somebody bullied you, and you open the doorway and you're like, oh God, people, you won't believe what I've been through. You see the who is who, and you're kind of like, oh, that's nice. There's nice people here. It's like, oh, you know, I have been through the this and the that, and it's like, I don't know, like this way was fucked up, and I kind of look for, you know, something better. And they're like, you went through what? And you say, he was bad? And all these people kind of have a completely different outlook on life. And I try to see, maybe there's a point where I meet them, but this is a tutorial, kind of like expecting various reactions or various people, varied experiences, or it's kind of like somebody to treat you normally. And what you see is an entire society that thinks that I don't even know what and you're like trying to be reasonable. It's like, how are you guys going to have sex if you don't have willing consent? And you can imagine that through the passage of Pluto in Capricorn, I was in academia already when the Me Too case happened to be about, and the satire and the flipping of the card, but also the kind of reactions to it. So that was a very shocking thing, but at that time it was completely disorienting, and you're like, usually when so many people tell you you're drunk, you believe that you're drunk, but in this case you understand if you drink one more cup of this you will die. And everybody tell you to drink. So what to do? And so Pluto is going to have another one like this, but this time in Capricorn, in Aquarius. So he just opens the door. There's something that happened. For example, people went out of a regime that was very oppressive. Okay, they open the door. There are many refugees right now. Okay, they open the door and they go, oh, in this country, I've heard so much, maybe about the States. I've heard so much about this place in Europe, or I've heard so much about, I don't know, for some people, maybe China or Russia. I heard so much about this place, and they go and they open the door, or they go to an anarchic kind of tribe or something like this, and they're like, I've heard so much about these tribes in I don't know where, that are indigenous, and they don't have governing, and the this and the that and that. They open the doors like, who are you? What have you to bring to us? Where is your gift to us? Like, I'm a refugee. What is this? Where is your tribe? Where is the people who sent you? Why are you wearing these clothes? Why you have no clothes on? Why you don't respect yourself? I was violated. What, you know? And then it's kind of like the story begins where you're kind of like looking for something different in the people, and it's weird. It doesn't operate, but it's Pluto, so this is a crisis, and this crisis may have to do to how women are treated, to how relationships are treated, how intimacy is treated, or and the domain is Aquarius. So Aquarius is kind of like, it's the nervous system, it's technology, it's traveling to space. So So that is something we can't really predict what will be, but it's definitely a different Pluto, because Venus is coming to meet Pluto after she's been through all these journeys, and she's kind of like, oh, you know what I've seen at Capricorn? What the fuck is going on here? And that's the conjunction. So usually when Venus meets Pluto, Pluto informs Venus, because Pluto is moving. Pluto has been here for a while, so Venus is like, oh, that's what it's like. Okay, then that's how it goes, and this is how the power goes. And now Pluto is just entering the place. He's been there for a couple of minutes. It's kind of like Venus is, oh, so what's this place like? I have no idea. I just got here. And this is Pluto. Okay, it's kind of like a baby is born. Or it's kind of like a child comes with the parent, and the child comes to meet the parent after school, kind of like, hey, Dad, how's it been in, how's it been in the house, or how's it been, I don't know, in whatnot, I've been in this country or that country. That says like, remember when I told you we are meeting like at the airport? Yes, we are traveling somewhere. Where? I have no idea. Okay. So those things can absolutely occur, and Pluto is having a revelation together with Venus. And now what happens with Pluto is that when he just learns about things, he wants to control, to hide, to not discover, but Venus is already revealing, is already exposed to that. And so this is a very interesting ingress, and it's on the minute. Okay, Venus is 51 degrees into Aquarius, and Venus is in 0 degrees. Both are on the 51. Is going to be the exact ingress, but it's just so close. It's just so close. Not on the minute of the 0, yes, but it's just so close to the beginning of the journey that even though Venus has been opposing Pluto in this point, now she meets him, and maybe she's expecting him to know something more about what's on, but he's as baffled as her about this. So this is the beginning of something. Now, how do these collide with the world? Well, the moon is going to go over this before the time of the ingress, so we're going to feel this, and the moon is going to be going from Taurus to Gemini. What else we're going to have there, if I can show you with the asteroids. So there's going to be another pole that sits pretty on the 29th degree of Taurus for a while now, and this is Sedna. Okay, so they're going to be separating from the trine to Sedna. When Sedna spent a couple of minutes in Gemini, basically there were on a national level issues of betrayal. I think about the Maui. Okay, I don't remember exactly when was Maui, but kind of Maui cases. That had to do with technology, that had to do with children, and all of those things. So like those were mundane issues that existed. Now on the 29th degree, we still have the kind of repercussions of the COVID, people being deserted when it comes to medical care, okay? People being deserted when it comes to women rights, unfortunately, women being betrayed, sisterhood, okay? Even when there was the October 7th, then there was the issue of the violations also against women, and women are like, where are all the organizations, the global organizations for women, for the feminists? Why have they all deserted us? And it happened on the land of Israel, which has Sun, I think also Venus in Taurus. And that is Ukraine, of course, had this too, unfortunately. And there was a demonstration there, but I don't know how much the world took on. So they maybe have experienced this too. So there was a betrayal of women by women. Okay, with Gemini, it's more like technology, children, or children being betrayed, and so on and so forth. And Taurus is also the banking system. Yes, a lot of betrayals in the sisterhood that unfortunately we see with this Sedna. And that is something that will be still evident as we embark with this Venus, the ruler of this Sedna, embarks into the trine. So again, there's a harmonious relationship between a trine and a new shift of power to do with science. Okay, this is what it is. Yes. What more? So what else are they doing? So we talked about the trine here with the Sedna and the moon that goes over it, that can give us an event here on a mundane level we need to be unfortunately cautious of. And they square, no, they don't square anything here. It's not really a square to Jupiter here. It's an line to square Jupiter, but it's not really a square to Jupiter. So except for the moon trigger, they're not doing very much. And this is what we'll see in February 17, 2024. And then we have the square on May 1st, 2024. We're going to have Venus squaring Pluto. She will be squaring Pluto from Taurus, 2nd degree, with Pluto in Aquarius. So the very first square, I don't know if it's the very first with Pluto in Aquarius, but it's kind of like Venus is co-present. Uranus, unfortunately, is already on the 20th to 22nd degree, and the Sun on the 11th degree. To say that I like this, I don't. And Jupiter is close to Algol. Okay, so Mars 0 degrees Aries. The moon is going over again. The moon will go over as this is perfecting. The moon will go over on that day this opening square. And this opening square begins with the land crisis, it begins with the labor crisis, and it begins with a lethal crisis as well. Okay? It can be having to do with suicide, can be having to do with killings, and is to do with women as well, unfortunately. To say that I don't like this in my Venus return, Venus return for 2024 is an understatement. But this does not look pretty. And it looks like Venus is trying to liberate herself something here. She's trying to liberate herself. And there can be a killing and a suicide involved in the house of Taurus. So yes, the tensions are immense here because Pluto in Aquarius, 2 degrees Aquarius. And if we try to take a look at Pluto would be on the Mercury term of Aquarius. So this can very much involve children. This can very much involve technology and trade. It can have to do with the social credit score kind of thingy, and Venus tries to liberate herself, and she's likely to do so by any means necessary, because there's a co-presence with both Jupiter that is close to a goal, okay, that making themes of a goal radically philosophized, radically, and also making them bigger, okay. And this is a Venus that tends to the material as well as the spiritual. Okay, no material sign is about matter alone. Okay, and she is trying to liberate herself, perhaps sexually, perhaps materially. It's like all of these things to be a Venus in Taurus that she wants to be. And she's very strong in Taurus, okay? She's in her home sign in Taurus. And there is a by any means necessary kind of thing. Okay, the degrees are very little. The point is very little. It's kind of like and Aquarius is associated with Uranus. Okay? So this is a tension where somebody tries to break free, to assert themselves, and there's a gate of lethality that is involved in the situation. Uranus on the 22nd degree is not something that I'm looking for. The Jupiter-Uranus on the 22nd degree is not something that I'm looking for. But here with Venus, it's kind of like squaring Pluto. She can have this, because she's co-present with Uranus, with Jupiter. Big drama and big deal that is actually important. So when she is getting this, when she comes to this, like there's this Pluto person or there's this Pluto theme, she's like, by any means necessary, get me the fuck out of this constraint, nuke the world. And unfortunately the world can be nuked here. It's like, nuke the world. None of this human trafficking anymore. None of this rape anymore. None of this shit anymore. Nuke the world. And this, unfortunately, can be the transit. So this is not something I'm looking forward to. And for the 2024 is going to be very, very difficult year, and so on and so forth. I haven't yet listened to the delineations of the why. But this one is absolutely something that tending to how to curate this is highly important, because all the things, you must remember, all the things that were standing, if we talk about the Libra Aries, and I talk about the square that was in Libra and in Aries, all the things, let's say you wanted to make an income, all the things that were standing in your favor, no longer. Okay, it's kind of like your skill, or your this, or your that. Here's just something there that's just no longer. There's a wound around where you try to go. And it's in this context, Venus here, that rules Ketu, she was letting go of something, it's kind of like a suicide bomber. Because even though the degree of Venus is not what concerns me, but she is ruling all these powers of leadership, rebellion, and extremism. And she's kind of like, hey, this is a war. Like, you expect me to do what? Sex work during a war? This is why you made this war? Nuke the world! Don't forget that Venus is representing sisters, representing women. And is also representing, on a mundane level, if you think about places like Belgium or Ukraine or even Israel. And people should be, and Ukraine has a lot in common with Israel, okay? And on a national level with Israel, and I will tell you why. Because when it comes to the Second World War, okay, Ukraine was conquered by Russia, then by Poland, then by Germany. Before Germany began her journey as the Third Reich, 300 years of war happened on the land of Germany. It happens in Syria right now as well, okay? But the Palestinians, what they're fighting is the Israeli, say, occupation or apartheid or whatever they look like. That is what maybe they were supposed to be fighting, but when you say they want the whole land, then it's also imperialism. It's no longer removing something, and this must be taken into account. And this is why Ukraine and Israel are in this position where they say, we fought so much to exist as a country. Now you say again, we don't have legitimacy to exist, while all of you are conquering lands, all of you are doing this, we just want a place for our people. Okay? If that's how you feel about us, look the world. Because this is where somebody of a Venusian nature is being crumbled into this point where they're like, we're gonna explode that. Everything, fucking every single bit of it, because enough is enough. Okay? And this is happening on Taurus. If that would be happening on a Virgo, on a Pisces, I would say maybe it's Gaza, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But this is a Taurus. And it is in the stellium is in the Taurus. So this is either Ukraine, Belgium as well. You must pay attention. I had made an episode about Belgium. You pay attention to Belgium. Okay? And Israel and more things of that sort, okay? Because this is where hell breaks loose, literally. You expect our women to go through this, or this to go through this, or this to go through this, but it can also be, it can have kind of a fractal structure where it's kind of like the women within Ukraine, the women within Israel. It's like, oh, we wanted us to go through all these wars, all this stress to have a radical religion. Look this world. Fuck you. Fuck you, no. And Venus is not going to, she's not going to be trying, like it's going to be very difficult because Pluto is also already just beginning to go through Aquarius. So it doesn't even have a teaching. If that was the answer, Pluto said, yes, you are right, but then you have to you take this into consideration and that into consideration. This is where it's, okay, you want to liberate yourself, but then you think about this thing. Pluto doesn't really have a teaching here. It has a little bit of something that it saw, that Venus saw as well. And it may have seen this in a bit more depth, but it has 20 years to go in Aquarius. And so it's this Venus where, like, really something must be done to make this, to mitigate this as much as we can, although the world is heading towards Aries, okay, towards more combat. And remember, this is not Capricorn, this is not the old structures or the old regime, or people say like the Zionist, or I don't know what's the equivalent in Ukraine or in Belgium. It's not like that. Yes, maybe the nation state, but it's not related to Taurus necessarily. We're actually heading towards more individualistic in this cycle. Individualistic, separating more nation states, more this, more that. All the while there is this 2030 agenda. But this one is, and it happens on May 1st. Okay, Uranus, Taurus also has to do with the industrialized society and how to make an income in an industrialized society. Okay, it also has to do with what we call labor. And this is where, again, women, if you also see, like I previously said, there was a time where I called myself the nude astrologer. It began as a joke, and then I kind of changed that. So there is the nude cook and the nude this and the nude that. I'm going to be the nude astrologer. But perhaps because of this, then I would see it on Twitter. Many sex workers fake account would kind of like my posts and stuff, and I'm just thinking about all these sex workers fake account, and like for even the people who are doing, let's say, OnlyFans, and they were like sex workers, just like this is their profession, this is sex workers, not human trafficking, not this, not all the things, like let us do our thing. Then even those businesses are being bombarded with corruption so that they are not visible in the algorithm. They can't make money. Okay, and so you think about women in this situation. Okay, there's a limit to how much you could cross and push and push and push and push and push. You won't go to before feminism. What you might go to is something that the world has not seen. The earth. You lose the mandate of the earth. Humanity loses the mandate of the earth. This is what, unless we change the trajectory, this is where this is going. This is the democide. This is the democide. Okay? Air is the scientists. Do we silence scientists? Do we silence avant-garde artists or avant-garde people? Do we allow for chaos to exist? Okay, this is the air, the quality of the air. And when this is not allowed, then usually a leader loses the mandate of the heaven. Okay, the above. Okay, this is about losing the mandate of the earth. And this is what now I understand. This is what the democide threat is. Because if we crash, people want to go to progress, yes, and you want to take people back, because Aries now wants to go to progress, not what was. Where are we going? And women are taken back in time. Then. And this happens in the sign of land, in the sign of Taurus, the sign of comfort, the sign of land, the sign of a part of agriculture, okay? The fruits, the veggies, the milk, the meat, or something like that. This is something that can bring in. It's not that women will try to resist, because women are not in the point. We're in a very interesting position. It's not that they want to resist the changes, and this is where the Pluto Aquarius perhaps the one world government wants to take these places, like controlling the women. So it's like they went too far with their freedom. Let's bring them back to control. So now we'll show them worse, so that they will bargain on something that like what was. No, women want to go further. Okay. Women want to go farther. They don't want to go backwards. And this is where some women will say, I take a cyanide pill in my mouth and I go ahead and I do this. And you know, when you unnerve a Taurus is a very fixed sign. Because until they form an opinion, it takes so much time that it's very difficult to convince them otherwise. That's the problem with the fixity, but this can also mean that until they form an opinion, until they form a worldview, they really have been considered everything that they saw. And you saw them in new structures. It's like, okay, I'm in this opinion, and I'm in this liminal space of between fixities. And I see you, I see your thing, I see your doubt, and I try to cover it with my point of view. And then if it doesn't work, then I don't know what to think. And then there's this crisis that they go through until they renew like their opinion. But here, this is where somebody's kind of like being pushed to the limits. And with the Uranus, they have a very little explosive, where there can be a leader that's kind of like making a suicide mission to explode the whole thing up. And with a square to Pluto, there can be a nuclear explosion by the merit of the Venus square Pluto. Okay, this is the people, Aquarius, in risk of losing the mandate of the land, the earth. Okay, this is not one nation. One nation it was if you would say, okay, where is this Mars and Venus? Oh, they are in Taurus. On a mundane level, we're going to see stuff in Ukraine or in Israel or something like that. Or where are they in Pisces and Virgo? Oh, on the mundane level, some going to be with Palestine and Hamas, or PLO and Hamas. Maybe they're going to have conflict with each other, and that's what you're going to see. Okay? When you have an outer planet into the map, this is where you hear about it or don't hear about it in the news, but this is where it pertains to the trajectory of where the world is going. If in a personal chart, there are the personal planets, and the outer planets are kind of like the intergenerational. On a mundane level, the personal planets kind of like the nation, and between the nations, the outer planets are the generations of political entities in the world. Yeah, they're very slow processes, but here we have two of them, and both of them are in a conversation, whether by co-presence or by square with Venus, and this happens on May 1st. Okay. I have expressed the concern that the next Hitler would be a woman, because the situation on women is such that unfortunately can yield something like that. But here again, what can we turn to? We can turn to Algol for mitigation, for shield, for protection, for denucleifying. This Procyon has to do with denucleifying, has to do with making oppression obsolete, also on a global level. For some, perhaps Deneb Algedi, okay, which is also a fixed star in Aquarius. Nothing particularly touches him on that point, but later when the moon touches Deneb Algedi, we may look at things from a different point of view, okay, or we may have a different, this is kind of like a different approach to things, to what is the distribution of wealth and so on and so forth. But we must remember this Deneb Algedi squares Jupiter. So yes, Deneb Algedi or Algol here, Procyon as always, and that is pretty much my go-tos, okay? What we want to avoid is the extremist, okay? The Aldebaran, Antares thingy, although with the Rahu ruled by Mars, there can be a tendency, it's like, oh, there's a wound in Aries, let's go to Antares. Let's go to Aldebaran. We want to win the land. Let's go to Aldebaran. Let's go to Antares. We need the Algol. We need the Medusa Gorgon. We need the wisdom of the people. We need to do right with those children and with those women. We need to do right now, or humanity literally uses the mandate of the earth. Because right now we're towards globalization. What we will do as humanity, we will, if something is done in one country and somebody can maybe escape, or maybe there's an expedition and somebody exposed, okay, like there's a solo traveler woman to Afghanistan that exposes the Taliban. What's actually going on there? An American woman. She's there on YouTube. It's what she's doing, okay? So when it happens in one place, in the other place, there's still hope. And when you turn global, and you say, okay, globally this is going to happen, either you change the trajectory or you literally lose the mandate of the earth. This is humanity extinction. Might not be 1 decade, might not maybe 2 decades, but on a longevity level, this is heading towards humanity mass extinction from the earth. So many people are like, okay, we'll go to space, but you have silenced the scientists. So what space? Your spaceship's going to poof. What space? You're not going to make it to space if you didn't ground yourself in Earth. Anybody that does any type of healing knows if you have a person that's like a lunatic or like it is, or kind of the crazy scientists, you tell them, the more you ground yourself in Earth, the more you're going to rise as well in your level of consciousness, kind of crown chakra, root chakra. So it's not to just escape this earth, and no, your spacecraft is going to be bombarded. Like you have to be in honoring of earth, and let's say you want to leave this place, so you have to do what is within your means to leave this place better than what it was. That is just extinction. Okay, like we're going to be the dinosaurs, and space is not going to save us. Okay, we must treat this land right. Let's say when you want to move to a bigger house, what do? You clean your house, you take care of your house, you make an altar, you begin to purchase the things that you would want to deliver with you to the next house, and you begin to see more houses. And then something happens. You watch this, you watch that. Okay, then you let go of the old house, you thank the old house, then you enter the new house. Okay, same, you want to go from earth to space. Okay, you want to take care of space, not to create a situation where people will have to go to space, but you have mistreated the people. And this is kind of like my great concern with this, is that yes, venturing into space is the continuation of humanity, but A, doesn't mean that we have to leave the earth, and B, it's about treating well what we have, so that we can have more, and not about, colonizing. And so these empires dissolve. These colonizing empires, they dissolve. They don't hold water, and what they become of them is not the best. July 12th, 2024, we're going to have the Venus opposing Pluto, and she will be again opposing Pluto from 1 degree Leo. Okay, just 1 degree away from her previous opposition to Pluto. Just look how slowly these things move. In the previous cycle, she was opposing from 0 degrees. Now, from 1 degree. And this is a crisis of leadership, of course. This is where we want to overthrow certain leaders, certain kings, certain kingdoms. But also certain things to do with performers. Okay, think about the performer as a social leader, the musician, the artist as a leader. Okay, they are leaders. This is why they are being, constrained in many ways, because they have a great impact on the world. Yes, Hitler as a painter might have been as influential as Hitler as a leader. There's a lot in common between them. But there is a conversation here that happens with the hidden, decentralized rulership and the leadership, which can be feminine as well. Okay, this can be, unanimous goes against Beyonce. Anonymous goes against, anonymous they're called? Yes, goes against Beyonce. I think she has ascendant, no, she has midheaven, I think, Leo. So it can be something like that. Then what are we going to do? Okay, who are these anonymous? Do we like them? Do we not? Do we expect them to save us like the aliens? Or like, what is this? Yes, we like them when they go against those we don't like. Or do they care for the people? Are they going to care for the people? It's like, what? Who is this hidden group of hackers? Okay, so, but this can also be hidden scientists, hidden and hidden people, secret societies as well, if they're decentralized in regimes. That in secret societies, I didn't even notice that, let's say, people talk about Illuminati and all that. Let's say you like Illuminati. Then the Freemason, the first levels, okay, of the leaders, but who is at the top, you don't even know. And you're expected to kind of like join this, and you don't know who's running it. You have no idea who's running it, who is funding it. You have no idea about anything. Now, part of this is because freedom of religion. Okay, if you take people, and I like to give the example of Romani people, because Romani people had to keep their own traditions a secret because they were exterminated. Okay, they were in life risk, so they always had to keep their tradition a secret. Yes, and so with the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons, they were also persecuted. But the thing is when it gets to the point you don't know who is running this, then you don't know what is on. And you're just expected to believe that it still does good. And sometimes it does, and sometimes you don't know. That can also be when you know exactly who is running this. Recently Henry Kissinger died, and he was following Realpolitik, who's the father of Realpolitik. And it seemed like this is a good approach. It's like the world is crazy, we have to work with this crazy. And it seemed like, oh, this is the right thing to do, but the right thing to do is the crazy thing to do, which was very much in light of the Second World War. Those who survived it, the right thing to do was the crazy thing to do. And he's very much associated with saying Israel will end in this and this and this, but also with the foundation of Israel, of the Yom Kippur, the 1973 war, and many people say then the 2023 war. And so there was a lot of controversy around this man, around this Realpolitik type of person. Yes, and so when people, and so this is the conversation, like when things are hidden, we have this, yes, but also when they are exposed, are they the right thing for this time? What is the implication, the long-term implication of that type of rulership? If you would think about, I don't know, being an OnlyFans performer 5 years ago, then maybe you were starting something that takes control of your finances, okay? If you think about it, when the algorithm hits OnlyFans and nobody can get famous and nobody can get money, and people are still prescribed into the what they looked for, this sex work perhaps is to take them out of the industrialized society challenges and make money in a different way where they control of it and they control of what they do, with whom they do, and so on and so forth. Then 5 years later, when you see this no longer the case, it's like, if this is a job, if your argument this is a job as any job, then this means that everything that happens in all those jobs also happens in sex work. And what we need is to change the labor market in general. Then we can have freedom of occupation. How can we speak about sex-positive sex work if we don't have willing consent, right? And the secretary say, well, this is exactly what I say. It's like, all is true, but we must tend to the workplace. Okay, if you're saying, oh, I much prefer to be a sex worker than to be a waitress because I got sexually harassed at work, then you understand that what we need is for you to not be sexually harassed at work even when you are a waitress. And then if you want to be a sex worker, why not? And so we already see, in terms of industrialized structures in Netherlands, the building of, and I don't know when are they going to move there, but the building of a building to, it's kind of like the Twin Towers of brothels and sex workers that is supposed to replace the good old-fashioned red light districts that was a part of the touristic part of the city, but it was also part of the city itself. And so this change of moving from the red light district, which was kind of like a window, and then a person, like a sex worker, stands in the window, and then the man kind of like courts her, and she was supposed to be more in control of what's going on. But then there was not enough security. Yes. And they want to move this red light district into an industrial building where it's no longer going to be like you look at the window, you can see her, she can see you, she can pick, I want this person, I don't want this person. And if she doesn't want this person, there's people, usually he will end up in the canal if he's been disrespectful. And then that was the job. Okay, now they're going to move it into the industrialized thing. And so and this is why I'm so concerned about the square, because even in this reality where you could say, well, if all things come about, then you can always do this for money. And you could save yourself because, let's say, you slept with someone, or you slept with that person, or something like this, then on a mundane level, even that is being taken as kind of like, no, this is not good. We're not going to be doing revolutions the way we always did revolutions. Okay? And so this is where you push women to this point where the old way of doing things, of doing social change, is no longer applying. It's not like, oh, well, they don't want me to work here, to work there, no problem. I'm going to work for this, I'm going to make my money, and then I'm going to support my social agenda. Yes, many of the advances that we've seen thanks to also sex workers. But if we don't have improvement on the entire working conditions of the entire humanity, and we are going like in that direction, which right now is where it is going, and people are still thinking in the terms of Arbeitsmarkt frei, then they don't pose an alternative. How are you going to take care of your elderly? You're sick, you're this, you're that. And if you're going to do, well, we're going to kill them so that we will survive, you are no different than the people who plan this shit. So now we're going to have the closing square, September 23, 2024. And the closing square between Venus and Pluto is going to happen on the 29th degree of Libra and Capricorn, respectively, with Pluto retrograde. So, this is where we are revisiting the point that we are visiting right now, just a degree away. It's just a degree away, and we're going to be returning to this point with the same argument about the structures of our governments, our this, our that, okay? And we're going to have the same argument. So notice, what are we arguing on right now? Because we are going to be arguing, you know what's going to happen? If there's going to be nuclear stuff popping up, there's going to be nuclear stuff popping up. If there's going to be more of what we see right now, which unfortunately can be, we're going to see more of what we see right now. Even when it comes to, let's say, the local wars, okay, the Ukraine-Russia war. Is it going to be different? In Israel, many people are asking, it's like, okay, we fight with them, we shoot them, we ruin this, we ruin that, if they have this achievement, that achievement. At the end of the day, if I bring today a baby to the world, okay, will she also have to, like me, not know what is public transportation? You know, the first time I took a bus, I took it to the wrong direction. Then he was standing in the central station. I was sitting, waiting for him to continue. And he was like, well, you need to calm down. I don't even remember if I had more money for like the next ticket. And I was like, what do you mean? I took the bus. He was like, yes, but you took it to this direction. You need to the other direction. And I was in the age of a person that the bus driver would not think that this is the problem, okay? He was like, you're supposed to know how to travel public transportation, but there was an intifada. I did not know what is a pub. I did not, which might mean I was, you know, exempt from other type of atrocities. But it's like, you know, the way we say here, tachlis. If I have a baby boy, okay, it would have to go to the army again. Then if he doesn't die on the way, then he may die on the army, and then he may die on the miluim, and then he may have PTSD, and then he may want to have, you know, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a marriage, if that would still be possible. We literally had to educate bus drivers that women can wear whatever, that people can wear whatever they want when they go on the bus. Okay? This is literally where you have like tachlis. All of this, where's that safety? All of this, we did all of this. Where's that safety? We did this for our safety. Where's that safety? We did all of this. Okay, and all these people dead, all these people kidnapped, all these people, even if you concentrate on your own nuclear region, countries, like all of that, okay? Because we're going to have this argument again. And this is an argument that is, again, with Venus, Ketu already in 6 degrees, and the Sun ingressing is going to be with the Sun in Libra season, and having this argument again. With all that we did, and all the people who died, and all the atrocities that happened, unfortunately, that's what we predicted for this cycle. And all of that. Okay, Tachlis, I'm a woman. I'm a woman. Yes? Where is my safety? So this is going to be the closing square, and it's going to be in a kite shape in the sky. Uranus retrograde in 27 degrees. Mind you, it's going to be going over Algol and backwards. So yes, Moon in Gemini. When this happens, Jupiter is going to be way into Gemini when this happens, no longer in Taurus. So issues of children is going to be technology, transportation, and Chiron is going to be retrograde on the 22nd degree of Aries. Where is Aries going to be? $25 degrees, okay, of it's going to be after the Chiron Aries conjunction, which is in itself a moment. Okay, you think about Aries in Aries as the marginalized of the marginalized. You think about intersectionality, then the person who's the most intersectionality, it's like the most intersectionality of oppression kind of thing, that's Aries, and you put a Chiron there. So like, this cannot be more marginalized. So kind of like, yeah, and this happens around my Mercury, but that is a very difficult passage. So this is the closing square. The Venus-Pluto. It's not for nothing that I got to talk about the Venus-Pluto. See these things happening. And then the conjunction is going to be on December 7, 2024. And it's going to be already in Aquarius. So it's going to be the first, I don't know if the first was kind of like, the first Venus-Pluto conjunction that we have happening in February 2024. And then we have the closing conjunction at December 7, 2024 in Aquarius. Okay. Mars is separating, the Mars is going to be retrograde in Leo. If you haven't had enough troubles, then Mars is going to be in Leo, thinking about this, reflecting. Then Jupiter is going to be elsewhere. Neptune will still be in Pisces. Chiron will retrograde to the 90 degrees of Aries. And this one, while it may give us an event, it is, the moon does not go over this degree, but in a day or so. So it's going to, the moon is going over as it is perfecting, but Venus is probably going to be in the 29th degree of Capricorn as it happens. So it's going to be just the second meeting in 0 degrees of Aquarius. of Venus Pluto. Uranus is going to be retrograde on the 24th degree. And you say, oh, it's no longer in the 22nd, it is next to Algol. This is, you know, get all the magic out of the closet and use it in favor of ourselves and humanity, because we need it. So this is the story of the Pluto-Venus. Now let's look for this chart for one optimistic thing in the day. So yes, the moon is 9 degrees Leo, and it is exactly trining Sun in Sagittarius. So yes, we have this moon in Leo, which is a bit more flashy and enjoying, fiery, about to square Jupiter, so there's something we're doing way big. And the Sun in Sagittarius, 9 degrees. Sun is on Antares, pretty much with the moon trining it. So there's some sort of career victory or victory in something that we may experience or that we may enjoy. So that's something good that happens today. Okay? Because we also need that. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.